Welcome back to the Found Family Trope. I am your host, Jonas Del Rio, and we are here for the fourth submission of the Found Family Tropes podcasts. Oh my gosh. I acknowledge this one's late. I'm so sorry about that. I'm late to being late, which is something that I do way too much. But honestly, I'm just trying to live my life, and you need to chill a little bit, okay? So, anyways, I listened back a little bit to the episode 3 podcast, and it was very hard to understand me at certain points. So I'm going to do a better job this week at trying to enunciate my words and to speak at a more amicable pace, shall we say? Shall we say? It's things like those which I didn't correct, which kind of bother me listening back to that podcast. But here we are. We're doing great. So, today we'll be talking about how the World Literature Student Conference actually went. Then we'll be talking about somebody who I met there. Or I guess I've been talking to them for a little bit. Their name is A, and they were one of the conference volunteers who we had a brief convo with, and it was really fun. And as usual, we'll get into the final moral of the show, and we'll talk about just a little bit about everything because why not? And I have deadlines to fulfill. Ha 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 ha. Anyways, the speech itself at the World Literature Student Conference, as I mentioned in the written blog post which went up alongside this, um, it was very stressful writing it. I ended up writing about this show called, or as I introduce it in my speech, a obscure 2014 anime titled Ping Pong the Animation. Um, I've watched it a couple of times just to write the speech, of course, but I first watched it with one of my friends from high school. We watched it over, I think it was like over a year ago. Time flies by, but it really stuck out to me as like one of my favorite pieces of fiction ever, and like just a seminal work in my life even. um it's about, of course, ping pong, and while the show is primarily about the people who are the best at ping pong, the Olympic hopefuls and the people who are competing for first place in this ping pong tournament, it's also about people who aren't very good at ping pong. Maybe they didn't have talent, maybe they just didn't have the drive, or maybe they were just unlucky, who knows? But for whatever reason, they didn't make it far in the ping pong world. And what I appreciate about the show is that it doesn't make fun of these people, it just shows that they exist, and that even though they aren't good at a sport they wanted to be good at, that isn't a problem. There's so much more left for life to offer them. Sure, it's not ping pong, but it could be anything else. And even if they still want to, enjoy ping pong casually or to view ping pong, like that's on the table as well. You don't need to be the best to be anything at all. That's to say, what's wrong with being mediocre? And that was the whole point of my speech. And I really liked it because it was kind of tongue in cheek, because I went up there and I gave a very nervous presentation. I knew that I was going to be scared as shit walking onto that stage, so I figured I'd just write in anticipation of that. And I think that really helped settle my nerves, because I knew that even if I appeared nervous, I felt that would kind of amplify the effect of my speech, because I wrote my speech so that I would be nervous and so that my thesis would make sense with me having nerves. Because again, what's the point of giving a speech? Or why should I let not being the best stop me from giving a speech at all? And I think I did a good job. I did get the highest praise of the night, so maybe I was the best in that regard, because someone called my speech, um, oh no, I forgot the exact words he used. No, that's so sad. But oh yeah, it was rather stimulating, according to the guy who'd been asking questions the whole night, and I love him for that. But I feel like this speech was a chance for me to like really work on my writing, just because I tend to be a really wordy person. Just either in person or with how I write. it seems to be that the author could be stating this subtly through the yada yada yada, and then I get to my actual point instead of just saying the author does blank or just this says blank. I always need to have attitude markers, hedges, or just make my verbs more complex by adding two extra helping verbs just because I'm cool like that, you know? Maybe not the best writing habit. I think, and I hope at least, it comes off as slightly charming for how I talk because it makes me seem, I guess, less professional, which is something which I hope to do because I think I can be uptight sometimes. But this speech was interesting because it was only 300 words or 400 words, and I had never really written something that short before. And like I did go over a little bit, but still, I feel like I'm really happy with how that speech came out, and I feel like it made me a better writer. Which kind of brings me on to the whole point of this is that I think that the WLSC really made me better, not just as a writer, but also as a person. Why is that? And this is where we introduce the second part of our Found Family Trope podcast. Um, I met this person who we'll be calling the letter A in tutorial. We were put together for our speech project. I think that might have been in, oh god, what was that? It wasn't April. No, it was earlier than that. Oh no, it wasn't March? It was something like March. That doesn't matter. But I met them because we had to work on a project together alongside two other people and write about this concept known as uncanny sound. I couldn't tell you. I forget the definitions. But we had to write about this film called Atlantiques as part of our world literature course. And, it was nice to meet them a little bit there. But little did I expect I would run into them at the WLSC, and they were one of the volunteers. A was taking photos for the whole event, and she managed to make some time for herself to talk to me before I had to give my speech and everything. So I bring it up because I feel like she really helped settle my nerves as I began to overthink and worry about giving that speech. She gave me a chance to talk about it a little bit. I introduced myself more properly. We talked a little bit about our parents, how we grew up, immigrant parents specifically. Talked about just, how school's going, what brought us there, whatever. Bunch of different stuff, but I don't know. It was nice for me to be able to talk about my speech that way so then I could kind of soft launch it. And then at the end, after I gave my speech and after everyone had, done the applause for all the different speakers and whatever, I'm headed out and then she intercepts me and she congratulates me, says I did a good job. And I don't know. It was really nice to be able to run into somebody twice that way. First in tutorial and then in the student conference because I don't know, I feel like that just really rounds out my perspective of them. Of course, like I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about them or like I know them past the surface level after these couple of interactions, but I believe very strongly in the whole idea of adjacency and that just being next to somebody, even if you're not necessarily talking to them, which in this case I was, can honestly be the start of a good friendship. And I guess that brings us to our outcome. What's the moral of the WLSC? I feel like it kind of gave me three things. It let me meet lots of new people, it helped me learn how to write, and I feel like it also kind of got my name out there a little bit. For the first one, of course, I met lots of different people. Had to work with my peers to create my speech. I felt I had to talk to my peers about my speech because I was really nervous, and that's how I got to talk to A. I met my professor a little bit more because I had to work with him to write my speech, so forth, so forth. It was stressful, but it was a good experience. And I feel like I feel more at home at SFU because now I know there's other people who know me. And skipping over to getting my name out there, now I'm kind of that kid who gave a speech. I know that a lot of undergraduates attended this event, so there's now the off chance that someone's going to be like, hey, Jonas Del Rio, didn't you make the found family trope? No, they're not gonna know me for this. I pray to God nobody sees this. But they're gonna be like, oh, Jonas Del Rio, didn't you give that speech on what was it? Oh, Ping Pong the animation, right? You talked about mediocrity. I'm like, yeah, that was me. And yeah, that seems cute to me. And I can write about it in my resume. I can do whatever, all the different things. It's a. I got a mark boost. Oh yeah, it's so cool. But I feel more at home at SFU after giving the WLSC. And yes, it did stress me out. Probably took a couple years off my lifespan, but I think it contributes to me enjoying SFU more. And I don't know if I want to do things like this in the future, but at least I can say it's something that I have done and that I'm capable of doing in the future if need be. With that said, thanks again for tuning in to the Found Family Trope. I was your host, Jonas Del Rio. I hope you had a good time. Hopefully, my verbiage was understandable and my idiosyncrasies were not intolerable. I don't know. I'm trying to think of fancy words for good or not bad, but I'm blanking right now. So I'm just going to end it there. I hope you are doing well in finals as. Oh, that's terrible. But yes, see you guys tomorrow for the final edition of the Found Family Trope. Bye.